Welcome back. This is week 4, part 4 of Regency Letters that we're writing together. So as you're listening, be thinking about what you think should happen next for both Nora and Corinna. So Nora wrote last week in part 3 and had this experience of meeting somebody in the hall of Remington Keep. And so this is Corinna's response to her today. Dear Nora, I can't believe it. You were faced with a desperate-looking stranger in a deserted hall of a lonely keep, and you kicked him and hit him, and then you stayed to bandy words with him? Why didn't you run? I can't decide if you are courageous or foolhardy. Anything could have happened. You are lucky to be alive. But I admit my curiosity is provoked. Who is this man? It is frustrating to know that we may never find out, especially if he is, as you suggest, a smuggler or spy. If that is the truth, what was he doing in the keep? Like you, he must have known that the Baron was away from home. I am constantly amazed at the adventures that find you. We could write a novel like the ones we used to sneak out to read in the folly at Rosecrest. An innocent damsel runs into a deserted ruin to escape the importuning of a rich but cruel suitor. There she meets a dark, mysterious French spy. Of course, he really is the son of a duke who has emigrated because he has been wrongly accused of murdering the prefect of his town. In all seriousness, do you believe this man that you met is dangerous? How could you find a way to report him without revealing your trespass? I urge you to be careful. Next time you meet a suspicious character in a dark, deserted hall, run. As to my news, nothing so dramatic has happened to me, although I did find a way to access the back issues of the Gentleman's Magazine. A few days ago, we spent the afternoon at Mr. Hatton's house, where Lady Morton and Philippa are staying. Lady Ballantyne, who helps to chaperone Philippa, you remember I mentioned she is one of Minna's school friends, she hired a dancing master so that we could brush up on the latest dances. Afterwards, Lady Ballantyne invited us for tea in the parlor. The conversation was lively, but it wasn't long before Philippa and I moved to a corner to talk about Queen Charlotte's ball. She's quite nervous about being presented. I could only commiserate. I'm sure I have never felt more awkward than I did last year. Part of it was knowing I was to be presented to the Queen, but most of my nerves came from the old-fashioned hooped dress and the required 3 feathers in my hair. As we talked, I happened to look down at the desk near us, and what did I see? Yes, the most recent issue of the Gentleman's Magazine was right at my elbow. It felt providential. I picked it up and turned my back to the room before I whispered, Philippa, does Mr. Hatton subscribe to this magazine? I could not hide my excitement. Philippa raised her brows but looked over my shoulder before she lowered her voice and answered, He must. He has dozens of issues in his study. I looked down at the cover. I suppose I might be labeled unladylike and even a blue stocking if I were to express interest in reading some of the articles in these back issues. Philippa cleared her throat. I suppose if I told people that I recently read Mary Wollstonecraft's A Vindication of the Rights of Women, I might be labeled, as she has been, a hyena in petticoats. I looked behind me to check that we were still private. I could claim the same label. She let out a breath and a chuckle and said, I don't believe society should place limits on a lady's interest or belittle her intelligence. We grinned at each other in happy accord. She said, most mornings before breakfast, Mr. Hatton rides for an hour. If I were to slip in while he was gone, I could borrow a few issues. I reached out and grasped her arm. I have a list of articles I'm especially anxious to read. She put her hand over mine. Send me a copy of your list with a footman, and I will bring the magazines when I come to call on Thursday. That easily it was done, and I have spent my days since Thursday in frenzied reading and note-taking. Lord Wycliffe was right. I can already see how this information will enrich my biography. I still await an answer from the London Corresponding Society. I have decided to take Philippa into my confidence about my need to get into their library. Maybe she will have an idea about how I can gain access. I hope to have more to tell you about that when I write next. When I read your request for more information about Sir Julian, I laughed until I cried, even if he wasn't so obviously enamored with Philippa's mother, Lady Morton. He is much too old for me. He must be nearly 40 years old. Still, he is more interesting than Lord Craven, who has taken to following me around at every social event since that cursed supper party where we met. I have yet to hear him make a comment of any sense. Sometimes I despair of ever meeting a man who will fit my brother's ideas of a worthy applicant to my hand, and one who won't bore me to tears, and is more interested in me than my dowry. That such a paragon exists and would look on me with favor seems nearly impossible. I will close before I get maudlin. Truly, this season is so much better than last that I have no cause for complaint. Yours, Corinna. So tell me what you think should happen next with Nora, who still doesn't know who the gentleman in the keep is, and unless you help me, I'm not sure I know, or for Corinna, who is trying to get more information for her biography of this woman important in history. Till next time.